Hello, and thank you for joining us on the podcast today. We are back for part 2 of how we're building a conscious relationship. I'm here again with Ryan Evans Kuhlman. And today we're going to dive a little bit more deeply into what our dynamic looks like in real time and how we're navigating it. So I'm actually going to start this conversation by asking Ryan a question. I want to invite you to tell the podcast listeners why this kind of relationship is important, particularly partnership relationship.
It's a good question, right? Because, I think growing up and just everything throughout life there's so much that's said around, it's like expected. Oh, I'm going to get into some sort of relationship, right? But never really thinking about why. What's meaningful about it? Why does it actually help me? And as I've kind of gone through, I guess, over the years, it does seem as if like my life becomes better when I'm in a good relationship. I become a better version of me. I feel more confident. I feel more solid. I feel more capable of just doing even the little things, of putting up with the little things. Oh, I gotta go buy groceries or go just deal with things that are happening in the world. And it's like by having that support, having someone I know I can really trust, I can really open up to, that they can support me when I'm in a tough spot. It's night and day. It's just life becomes different. Life becomes, I think, almost like what it's supposed to be, versus just. I've spent many years actually single, and I feel like I do pretty well as far as some people really need more social activity, and I do pretty well kind of on my own. But the more as I've gotten into it, it's noticing is that a truly good partnership, I feel better. Like my whole life changes basically. So it's a little general, but that's really what I would say.
No, I think that's a great answer. I'd like to ask, what has it brought you that nothing else has been able to bring you before?
Well, it feels like it brings me some of these internal things, these like the ability to feel really solidly comfortable in myself by having someone there, or like this again, back to the safety thing of, oh wow, I'm truly safe to show up and just be me. And so it allows my body, my nervous system wants to go to a deeper rest, it feels like. And then it also allows me, because I can go like get more excited about life, I think, because it feels like, oh man, I just have this connection, and it feels more exciting too to do things with someone else. I don't really want to go to Disneyland by myself, but doing it with a partner, a little more fun.
Yeah, it's like having a best friend all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Ideally, it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, so in terms of like, one of the things that I love about you is how safe you are to yourself. Like, you provide a sense of safety and structure. I notice you have a lot of respect for yourself. You do some really great self-care. You honor yourself constantly. So you already have that within you. Are you saying that bringing another person into your life in that way brings that to an even deeper level?
It makes it more meaningful. 100%. There's something about the responsibility. That's the word that comes to mind. Of now, it's not just about me or me and my cat. It's about like there's another person where like we are connected, and like I really need to do this stuff. But it's like, but it becomes a thing of I want to more, or it does take it to another level.
Yeah, cool. I love that. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that romantic partnership is really important because similar to what you're saying, it helps you be the most authentic version of yourself. Like, it is truly an ongoing medicine experience because there's so much vulnerability that you can't reach with like just anybody, even with therapists, even with some other friends. Like nobody gets as close to you as a partner. And I'm a big believer in like the work, the self work, the healing work, and partnership for me brings it to a deeper level that like nothing else can bring it to. Like you definitely bring up relational trauma I didn't even know that I had because of the level of like depth and safety within our dynamic. And then of course, every layer of that trauma that I get to clear, the more authentic Nadia I get to uncover. And there's like a lot in there.
Yeah, we've seen some of that.
I mean, would you say it's like similar for you? Is there a lot of Ryan that hasn't been uncovered yet?
I think so. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, it pushes me so much more by having that person that can really see me and really knows me, but also just these continual interactions and the ever increasing deepening of the relationship. Yeah, it's just it more and more comes out. You're like, well, I didn't know that was in me. Because I didn't need to. When it's just, again, if it's just a very simple life where it's just me, or like I don't have this really deeper connection, then it's a lot easier to maintain whatever structures and boundaries that I need to just get by, whether it's with work or going out in the world, little things. But yeah, I don't need to go all the way in because it never comes up.
Totally. Is it worth it?
Yeah, it is. And it's work.
Yeah, for sure. It is work.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that like way more deeply in this episode. I just kind of wanted to start it off with some, I don't know, meaningful questions.
Sure.
So we talked a little bit last time about how we met and like the synchronistic stories around it. And actually, we've decided we're going to do a third episode that's going to be pretty woo, where we'll talk about soulmates and twin flames and some of the.
What was that? Sorry, just distracting you. That's all.
Some of the more like weird spiritual stuff we've encountered being in a shared psychic field, having visions or being pulled to contact each other. Some soulmate twin flame connections that came up before we met. So we're going to save the woo talk for the next podcast. Today we're going to get a little bit more real. And I think one of the things that keeps coming to me is to emphasize how relationships are medicine. So those of you listening to the podcast, like that I work with medicine. I'm a medicine woman. And what that means is it's real healing. It is what I think intended medicine to be. Like we talk about Western medicine, Eastern medicine. Medicine is something that heals. And that means it rebalances, it clears, it restores. It doesn't cover symptoms. It's like a full healing process. So anything that can do that is known as medicine. And for me, this relationship has been medicine, I think, for both of us. And so I'm going to put that structure around this conversation for y'all to keep in mind of like why this is important, what's actually happening, and what the bigger level picture here is. And it's about healing. It's about making life more meaningful and fulfilling. It's about taking relationships and kind of taking them to the next level. So just to kind of start that off. So first I want to talk about, we met last fall, or we got together last fall, and it's kind of been a big experience, I think, for both of us ever since. And so without going too deeply into the weeds, because we are going to talk about some specifics, like, will you tell the audience a little bit about what it's been like for you to be in this deep medicine space for a prolonged period of time?
Yeah, I mean, time has gotten super funky. It feels like it's been a really long time since October. And just there's been all these fluctuations, and I don't even remember almost all of them or what it was like beforehand. It's just been, but at the same time, it's again, like so many little situations and flows have happened that I don't remember them, and I don't know. I'm here now, and it's like, okay, but it's definitely there's been a lot of work that's gone on. And I feel like I'm just in a different place right now than wherever I was.
Yeah. So you have experience working with plant medicine, psychedelics, and both synthetic and non, and that sort of thing. And I think a lot of the people who follow the podcast also understand plant medicine or psychedelics to be a type of medicine. It is one of the many types. And so if you could compare the experience that we're sharing or that you're having since October to, let's say, a psychedelic journey, how does that line up for you?
So what comes to mind is that psychedelics and the plant medicines, they tend to like they've always taken me on quantum leap type experiences where it's so drastic and dramatic. I'm here at one point and then I'm somewhere else after, where it feels like a big shift and a big clearing has happened, but it happens overnight. It's just bam. And that's also, I think that actually, to me, that's why people like it so much, or why I've liked it so much. It feels so significant. You're like, whoa, now I can feel the difference. Whereas this feels as if it's the same thing happening, but it's just slower. It's incremental. It's like, I guess the metaphor that comes to my mind is if anyone, especially if you're like a hiker, climbing, anything like that, that if you're walking up a long incline up a mountain or something, you can be walking for a good hour and you're just like, oh man, this is a lot of work. I'm tired. Am I going in, or doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere? But it's only when you turn around and look back down that you sort of, oh, I actually have gone a ways up. And that's kind of what it feels like, that there's a big change is happening and has happened. But it's only when I look back that I can feel the difference. And I think and then the final point I'll make here is that it feels as if by doing it slower and in this sort of non-plant medicine space, it feels a little bit more stable. It feels more like every change that happens then gets integrated or has the possibility to get integrated. And then you build on that so that it doesn't feel like there's any risk of it falling back. Whereas I know when I've had some plant medicine ceremonies and things that, I'll kind of like have maybe do or have these potential to fall back on certain things where it feels like, oh, I have a big opening and then retract. And so as great as it feels in that moment, it's like if it doesn't stay, then I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you like the integration difference, because to me, a lot of times plant medicine or psychedelics is like a big peak experience and you get a taste. And of course, it's going to change you. But most people really struggle to integrate that and to actually implement it into their life and to make meaningful, lasting change in like a legitimate, holistic way, where I think this makes it a lot easier.
I think as far as making like big change, it requires a different fortitude. It's about patience and discipline and just showing up every day versus take some ayahuasca and then go and lay down on the mat and have and then you've got 5-6 hours where you're going to go through some craziness, but then that once it's over you're like, okay, I'm out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is kind of equivalent to something we were talking about just yesterday about like big grand gestures versus the slow path. And the big grand gestures are nice and they give you instant hits of certain things, but like big picture, we all need to be more like the slow path, I think, to like that is the key to more joy and happiness in life.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think especially given kind of some more fundamental realities of modern society with like technology and how fast everything moves and our access to digital things all the time, that we're always moving so fast and there's so much information coming through all the time that we have more, I think probably more need than ever to really slow down in other areas of life.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we kind of derailed the conversation a little bit, but totally. Medicine work is something we are both super passionate about, and more on that in future podcasts. So let's dive in a little bit to triggers. Okay, so we're each going to talk about one of the major triggers that's come up for us in this dynamic and what it looked like, and just being like really vulnerable and raw about it. So this time I'll start. Okay, so there's been many, many different things, and I'm going to bring up what's kind of the most fresh and alive for me, because as Ryan mentioned, we're moving through this so quickly. It's almost like it comes up, it gets resolved. Now it's done. We get to move on and we get to go to the next layer. And that's kind of been the arc of the relationship. And so it's awesome, first of all. But second, it's been a lot. Finally starting to slow down, I think. So one of my major triggers has been Ryan he's a slow and steady kind of guy. He's on the big picture path. His pacing is slow. And that's been really hard for me, like from the get-go. Because I'm used to a man who's more like big gestures, highs and lows, like that very extreme lifestyle is something that I've always chased. And so it showed up in my relationships. Now, putting that aside for a second, if Ryan shifts his perspective or opinion on something, and I'm going to give you an example here in just a second, and I hear his perspective shift, I automatically go into this place of like, oh my God, he's changed his mind. Things are not the way that I thought they were. He's going back on it. It's not going the way I expect. And I immediately go into a dysregulated state. Like I get super triggered emotionally and physically. And what I'm coming to realize is that uncertainty is a trigger. So when I know exactly what the path is, what our plan is, where you stand and where I stand, and something changes, I immediately go into a black hole. And, candidly, I deal with catastrophic thinking and black and white thinking. And that's like something I've had to actually come to terms with over the last few months because it's come up several times. And that's how I can tell that I'm in a super dysregulated state. My energy is now closed off, or it's angry. And if I come at him like this, it's going to trigger him and put him into a dysregulated state. So this is known as cognitive distortion. And I've had to do things like I have a notes app of good conversations we've had where like he said this or he noticed this or these are the changes that I'm seeing. So then when these moments happen that trigger me into catastrophic thinking, I go back and look at them and I'm like, Nadia, remember the big picture. Like Ryan is showing up. He's here for the long game. He's been slow and steady. Like I equate it to feral cat healing. Like Nadia has an inner feral cat and Ryan is just like in the room slowly moving towards me. No sudden movements because then I will run away. And so I tell you guys this because it's important to know that you don't have to be in a perfect state of being healed when you enter a dynamic like this. Like I have done a lot of work on myself, but this man continues to take me to deeper places and it teaches me so much about myself. Like I didn't know that uncertainty was that big for me. And the smallest things, like, yeah, I'm cool not knowing what's going to happen next week for my clients, or maybe I don't even know how I'm going to pay a bill next month. And that stuff is fine. But for some reason, when that uncertainty comes up in my relationship dynamic, it's a whole new level of fear and dysregulation. And the important piece is just knowing how to deal with that dysregulation when it happens and knowing how to deal with the trauma that's living inside of the dysregulation or like inside the nervous system causing the dysregulation, I guess. So that's one of my recent examples of like what triggers me, what happens inside me, and why it's important. And I also I want to ask, well, no, first I want to add, I've also noticed that I have this pattern of like blow it up and run away. Like this just isn't going to work. F this, F that, I'm done. And that's one of my my internal red flags where I'm like, okay, Nadia, you need to go calm down. You need to do something that makes you happy, like take a walk, take a breath. And most importantly, do not make contact with Ryan while you're in this space because this is my responsibility to deal with. So I've told you what it feels like, what it looks like, what happens in my brain. This is one of many examples of the way that my body tells me that I'm dysregulated. So, Ryan, on the other side of that for me, what's it been like for you to, I don't know, observe that or support that? Like, yeah, talk to me about that a little bit.
It's, gosh, it does feel hard to say totally, especially we're not in it, but because I can see it sometimes happening. I can see that like something's going on that I don't totally understand is what it tends to be. Like I tend to feel, personally for me, I tend to feel it intuitively, actually. I can just sense something's off. I don't know exactly what it is. Sometimes I get little hits. I'm like, oh, she's probably actually thinking about this. But generally speaking, like my approach has been to sort of just be patient and wait. Um, yeah, because I found that that tends to work best rather than trying to like not overly bring it up to you like, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? I need to fix it, because that I tend to find that doesn't help. But yeah, just waiting. And yeah, and then whenever you, I mean, for me, I've been actually really impressed with you, because the level of which that you will go into yourself, really work these things through, and then come back to me with, I was thinking about this stuff, and yeah, you'll come up with this giant list of all the things you were thinking about. And I'm like, holy hell. But it's also really cool because it shows just how much you are focused and dedicated to working with yourself and figuring it out. And we get to this point where, yeah, then we can talk about it. And so that's really cool, because that's building a sense of trust in me that, yeah, that when she's going through something, she's gonna work on it. She's not gonna just brush it under the rug and let stuff fester. So that's great. Um, yeah, I think that's, just part of kind of the experience on my side of just, but knowing that you're going through it. Um, yeah, again, I don't see it all the time, but sometimes it just ends up coming back like, okay, now we either need to talk about it, and because you haven't fully moved things, I need to talk about it, or you have gotten to a place on your own, and then now it's time to come back together and sort of air things out, just so that we can both be on the same page.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I'm curious too, like as your reaction to the lists that I make of the stuff I work through or I'm trying to work through. Do you think that's a woman thing or do you think that's a Nadia thing?
I don't know. I mean, I guess in my relationship dating experiences, I've been with women who would do lists and some who would not. So maybe a little both.
No, I just mean like the extent of processing. Like I wonder if that's the difference between women's work and men's work. Like if women just kind of explode inside and need to find a way to sort that out.
What comes to me at the moment is yes and no. That I think oftentimes men will want to keep things simple, or like the simple answer is good enough for men. You're laughing, it's funny. But at the same time, I also know that men can also get super crazy about like wanting to know every single detail and plan it all out. And so that also happens too. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
That's fair. I was just curious.
yeah,
Yeah. What about you? Like, what's been a kind of recent big trigger item?
yeah. So I guess yeah, throughout the relationship, it's been there's one really big kind of trigger that comes up that feels really, I guess, recurring, which is this feeling I have of sort of like wanting to retreat, or feeling like I'm being overwhelmed by the relationship, by the energy you're bringing forward towards me. And maybe a little bit of context on that, I think I've always really been a person who's really valued my own freedom and independence, and just there's something about it that just brings up this excitement in me of like, oh, I just want to feel, enlivened and free to just be in the world and do stuff. And so there's been like a push pull in my own life of how do I do that, but also still maintain responsibility? How do I do that and maintain connection and commitment with, particularly in a relationship? So yeah, and then in past experiences, I've had that as a real challenge where I would get too much into a people pleasing type of mode, where I would kind of start, I say, like, not fully appreciating or valuing, honoring my own internal needs. I would just start to be moving more into a, what does she need? What does my partner need? Let me just make sure she's happy. And moving into that energy, A, doesn't feel good inside of me. I start to feel like I'm shutting down. I'm not as active in it, but then she also generally doesn't feel good at it either. Um, so that's been a previous pattern. I didn't like that. So then kind of coming out of that, and then sort of as we're going through this, then I'm getting all this resistance coming up at certain moments when we're connecting. And I start getting worried. It's just like this feeling comes to me of like, whoa, this is moving too fast. I get protector pieces coming up. Like, we need to slow down. This feels vulnerable. This feels like we are on the edge of losing ourselves. This feels like we are going to kind of be moving, like the worry will move into that old pattern, that old dynamic. It doesn't feel great. Um, yeah, I think just this internal process within me of getting triggered, of feeling like I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm about to be smothered. I'm about to give myself away. I'm about to lose myself. Um, and yeah, and so that doesn't feel good. It's trying to protect myself from being hurt from all these things. And so then I have this reaction that wants to step back, maybe way back, and or like, really hold Nadia at a distance. And so that's part of like my situation of what I deal with when I get triggered into that state, when she's excited, like Nadia is, or I say you are sending me messages, sending voice notes, or just you're excited that you want to be in that, you want to be connecting deeper, and I'm running up against whatever internal walls that I'm hitting, where it's feeling a little like too fast. I'm not able to meet you there, and then stories come in of, oh, I'm not doing it right. I need to be more open. There's something wrong with how I'm showing up. So, yeah, you're not going to be. You're going to leave me if I don't um, get excited in the same way you get excited. So on. All those stories come up. So yeah, that and I just have to. I get in this place of how can I really express my needs and my boundaries without hurting you, and just doing it in a way that feels good for both of us. So yeah, I think that more or less that's kind of one of these big recurring trauma patterns where I get triggered. I'm like, oh man, this thing is feeling like too much. I need distance, I need space, I need to slow down. But how can we do this? How can I be aware of myself when it's true, or what's working inside of me, and then connecting it to you? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that has been a big one. And I think freedom is a big one for men in general, right? Like the sense of freedom is pretty common. Or like the need, the desire. Would you say that that's true?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
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 Interesting. Well, I'm not going to go into the men's work conversation because that's not what I'm prepared to have. But for me, like what it's been like on the receiving end, and I want you to talk about this from your end on the psychic level with regard to my stuff, because I know you felt my walls and my little goblin that comes out to stab you. When you kind of back away or retract, especially when we're in person, it's almost like this wall goes up and you have stepped away, and the connection is now blocked, and I can't feel it between us. And yeah, it's been really hard when that happens. And also it's like, okay, this is a great time to bring out the patience and really love Ryan, like where he's at and who he is. And this is a part of his process, and I'm not going to go anywhere, and kind of like standing strong and grounded in that. I think worth mentioning is we're doing this at a distance for the time being. And so when this happens in person, it's pretty significant, right? Like, like it gets felt pretty deeply. But at a distance, it's more like then all those things I just talked about in me get triggered, and I have to do my own work on that. And we'll talk about like attachments in a second and how that triggers my anxious attachment. and how it's connected to Ryan's avoidant attachment.
Right.
But yeah, when I go into my catastrophe shutdown situation, what are you noticing, like psychically, energetically? How does that feel for you?
Boy, I think it mostly just feels like something's off. It feels like something is maybe slightly threatening kind of happening. And I do notice that, especially from a distance, sometimes I think I can feel your psychic movement in that direction. And if I'm not careful, I'll start feeling it myself, where I can almost take it on as like, oh, I think that's my own. That, oh, you're catastrophizing and you're going into a downward spiral, and all of a sudden I might start feeling, yep, uh-oh, something's wrong. This isn't gonna work. And so I think I can tap into your intuitive psychic field as well. And again, yeah, if I'm not careful, I'll start to think it's me.
Totally. And that's a shared issue we've had, and we'll talk about in the next podcast, is
Yeah.
the psychic field of the relationship.
Yeah. I went woo already. Sorry.
I asked the question. It's fine. Yeah, I just think it's important too, because for even the people who aren't like super psychically gifted, or maybe they haven't tapped into their gifts, what it feels like is something is slightly off. Maybe I'm feeling a little threatened. Maybe I'm having this experience, but when we can't put words to what that is, it makes it hard to resolve it, you know? So that kind of leads into the nervous system discussion. Now, in our upcoming course, we're going to talk more deeply about the nervous system regulation and how to deal with it and like how it shows up. But I want to talk about it a little bit here. So from a more clinical standpoint, how I view the nervous system in this scenario is like, okay, we're in a relationship. Something triggers a cascade of sensations, emotions, or thoughts. And then the nervous system goes into some kind of response mode that's not relaxation. So fight, flight, freeze. My craniosacral mentor would tell you there's 5 more there, but generally it's just not a relaxed state. And that happens when we feel like we're unsafe. Now, a lot of times we don't know what triggers our feelings of unsafety and what triggers our nervous system and what dysregulation actually looks and feels like. And again, we're going to talk more deeply about that in the course, but for this conversation, I want to talk about how it shows up in Ryan and in myself. So like the importance of regulating your nervous system and how it can look as it relates to the relationship. So yeah, it's interesting kind of nonlinear conversation too. So Ryan, talk to me about like your nervous system regulation in the past and how it's been different since we started this journey together.
So yes, I mean, in the past, my nervous system would get triggered a lot, and I didn't know what the hell to do with it, especially years and years ago, where I'd go into a lot of like shutdown mode, victim states. I would kind of freeze up and I wouldn't know what was going on, and it would all feel very overwhelming. And yeah, I would often, I just wanted to just retreat, kind of like go into the cave, so to speak. And generally speaking, it would be tough for me to come out of it. It would be tough for me to really understand what was happening and how to actually move out. Like, I think, quite frankly, years and years ago, I didn't want to. I didn't want to do that work. I didn't want to look at the things to actually feel better. I think there's multiple beliefs behind that as to why, but that's kind of what would happen. And if I wasn't able to really like have a conversation with someone about it, or with my partner, or like things could just kind of get stuck and build up underneath for a long time, because we weren't really I wasn't really coming to resolution with whoever I was dating or together with.
Yeah, what was your experience like trying to work through that with a partner previously when you were activated or even unpacking the activation?
I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I could just fully just show up and say, this is what I'm experiencing, and not have it thrown back in my face, or not have her get triggered, upset. And so I was like, oh, well, this isn't safe for me to tell what I'm experiencing. Therefore, I'm not gonna, because it feels safer, or it'll just make things worse. So I have to. It felt like I had to take everything on myself. I had to figure it out on my own. I would have to, maybe talk to a friend or a therapist or something like that, but that wouldn't always resolve it. So very often it felt like when I would start really moving through trauma stuff, it was almost this feeling of, I don't have confidence that this will ever get resolved. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So it's almost trying to avoid any and all traumas, because knowing that, or like from this belief, this perspective of, the more traumas, more fights we have, the more likely stuff's just going to build up, because I don't feel confident that we can continually clear and resolve them.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that also like adds to the feeling of isolation that a lot of people feel in relationships where they're not able to have these conversations.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure, because like I know I felt that of like, okay, well, I can't say everything because I'm trying to preserve the relationship. And my feeling is, if the more I say, the more likely we are to just get into conflict. We're not going to resolve it, and we're going to move towards splitting. Great.
I know, one of the things that I've heard is like that there's nothing more lonely than being in a relationship where you don't do repair, where you don't actively resolve things. And having been in a marriage like that, like that's 100% true. It is way easier to just be alone than be in a relationship and be alone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you kind of had some similar stuff in your previous relationships too, if I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, when I tried to bring things to the table, I was basically made to be the problem. Like it was Nadia that had to do the healing work, and Nadia needed to fix this, and she's too emotional, and there was no like personal responsibility on the other half. And yeah, that was really hard. And so even getting used to being with someone who can take responsibility and ownership I question it all the time. Like, is this real? Is he bullshitting me? Is he going to come back and like throw it at me later, use it as weapon? Because that's what I'm used to, or to flat out being attacked. And so then I have like a trauma response, even trying to bring things to the table before I say anything,
Yeah.
I think what's also been surprising for me is when it comes to nervous system regulation, a lot of times you and I reach this point where we actually have to regulate together, is what I would say. Like we have to talk about the thing together.
Yeah, it has felt like that. And that's been new with this kind of dynamic, where it's been, because for whatever reason that we're both at wherever we are, that I trust you to hear me and not overreact, not get super triggered by what I'm saying when it's just my experience. That I'm just trying to communicate what I'm experiencing, not as much saying anything about you. And I trust you that you're not going to blow it out of proportion. So it feels really cool. Like, okay, wait, I can bring it to you. But then, yes, I felt like we've gotten to this place of, sometimes it's just, we just need to talk. And by talking it through together, all of a sudden things resolve.
Yeah, that's really surprised me. Like typically there's some level of like breath work or yoga or meditation or some kind of practice that I can use to regulate myself. But since we started, I will often come up against a wall where the only thing that I'm intuitively feeling is that I need to reach out to you. And I've noticed that I have a lot of resistance to that, because I'm like, I don't need no man to help me deal with this. Like that, you haven't been in this long enough to have that conversation or to let him see this part of you. And I've really had to like get over that in myself. And I think too, what's surprising is that we both feel it until it gets resolved.
That's true.
Again, with this shared psychic field stuff. And so I think that's the whole co-regulation thing that people talk about, where you can only get so far with yourself before you need a second person to help you work with you, sit with you to regulate your nervous system. And that's kind of one of those other awesome untalked about benefits of partnership, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's part of too of, I think we were talking about before, that's it's indicative of like an adult relationship, I guess, where we're trying to do this together, to work together, and we're both like maybe not so concerned about just my ego situation, but like how can we work through this together,
Right.
so that we come out stronger on the other side.
Totally. Yeah. Moving from a me to a we, like truly and automatically, has been so weird. Like for me personally.
Yeah, I'm still working on it, but yeah, it's moving.
Yeah. And by that I mean like it's the we mentality. Like we are a team. We have the same goals in mind. I 100% trust that you're like on the train with me. And yeah, I think it's kind of like protecting the dynamic, protecting the relationship instead of protecting myself.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. And none of this means that, so I just want to say that none of what we're talking about means that we don't have regular support, right? Like a coach, a therapist, other tools that we use to deal with all the mind stuff that comes up. Because even in these triggered moments, these dysregulations, we do have things like thoughts that we need to be aware of, and thoughts come from beliefs, and that's a whole like side quest we can talk about that needs to be resolved, that does need to be addressed. You can't really bypass that through doing the couples work, but it will illuminate where you have beliefs and traumas and other things that need to be tackled in a different way. So still need a therapist or a coach, possibly both. What's the other thing? Okay, so learning to communicate has been a fun curveball, I think. Didn't realize I was a very shitty communicator, and Ryan's actually very good. So yeah, I don't even know where to start with this. Ryan, why don't you talk, since you're actually very good at it, talk us through active listening and I statements and why they've been important, or why they are important just in general.
Okay, I'll try to make it. I'll give you the brief version, because this is, you know, this literally like we'll have a whole thing on the course in this where it's in depth,
Totally.
and it'll take way too long to go through all of it. But essentially, I statements and active listening, these are communication tools and like a way of refocusing or reframing how I communicate that is just really helpful for, I guess, avoiding triggers from someone else, or really focusing on the truth of what's actually happening. So it avoids lots of projection of ideas. So when it comes to I statements, especially if there's a conflict, if anyone's feeling activated, I statements become really important. It's about, I am feeling blank. And that's pretty much all you say. You don't say the because you did this. Don't do that part. Don't do that you made me feel thing. That's not an actual statement. That's not of truth. The true statement is, when you did this, you said X thing, I then felt hurt and unheard and so on. And it's a very subtle differentiation, but when you start using I statements properly, the other person can hear you better. They can hear what you're actually saying. Then you stop blaming them. You stop attacking them subtly. And then they don't feel attacked and triggered. And then again, then they can hear you. And it's like, isn't that a good idea? Because you're not escalating things through your own inadvertent language. So it's really important.
My personal favorite is, I feel like you did this. Like,
yeah.
Changing the I feel thing to suit my needs instead of actually doing the I statements. And that's been really hard for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great one, right? I'm saying what I feel, which is about you. No, you can only say what you feel about yourself. And yeah, then active listening is there are ways or techniques and tools about this, but it's really just about truly listening to what someone's saying. And then at least for me, I say I need to get myself out of the way. I need to get my ego out of the way. I'm really actually trying to listen to understand what is being said, because oftentimes people, especially if they're in an activated state, it's tough to say what you mean when you're all going. But it's just it truly is like listening to someone, understanding what they're saying, and sometimes what I'll need to do with that is kind of run it back and ask questions and be like, I think what you're saying is this. And sometimes I have to use the exact words that they use, but sometimes it's also just trying to rephrase it, literally trying to rephrase what I just heard you say in my own words, because that's how I'm understanding it. And words have like lots of meanings, and people interpret things differently. So again, it's this process of I'm really trying to listen and understand you versus just kind of being in something and just kind of trying to state my opinion and kind of hearing what you say, but then using it to form what I want to say already, or whatever, something like that.
Making it about yourself in some way. Yeah. I think so. I really struggled with our dynamic early on because you were really good at this and I was not. And it annoyed me where you're like, I feel like, or no, actually, it was more the active listening. Like, this is what I heard you say. And I felt patronized. Is that the word? Like, I felt really irritated, and like this was some stupid fucking line that you learned out of some therapy book, you know. And it occurred to me, we were doing a coaching with another couple, non-romantic coaching, a couple, and she had said that it had been weaponized against her, that it was like it created a trauma response to have these active listening words used, like, here is what I think you said, or here is what I heard. And it occurred to me that it was similar for myself. Like, these particular ways of communication had actually been used against me in the past. And so it made it harder for me to really understand and be 100% sold on them when you and I got started.
Yep.
I think that's common, honestly.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately true that any of these types of tools can be used the wrong way, and people can say, "Oh, well, I'm listening to you. Can't you tell the way I'm talking?" Or like, look, there's all sorts of things like that. So, unfortunately,
I think that's an edge we come up against a lot too. Is like, it's an edge of toxicity, or an edge of like where someone could cross a line and turn it into a manipulation tool or a gaslighting tool, or turn the relationship toxic in some way. That I feel like that happens a lot in our dynamic, where we're like, wow, if we just stepped over that, it could actually be a problem.
but yeah, and that's just that internal discernment, I think, and the intuition of, and then again, being able to pull up a chair and talk, the distance chair at the moment, but it's like, hey, like, what the hell was that? Like, what did you mean? And like really just being able to say it. And turns out, most of the time it's I was misinterpreting in some way, shape, or form, or you didn't mean it that way, or whatever.
Totally. I think that's one of the ways the distance actually works in our favor, is that we have a lot of space to go through stuff internally, to move through it, to bring it back on the table and be like, okay, this is what happened for me. This is what I thought you said. Like, that's what I heard. And then we can revisit the conversation. And we were just talking about yesterday how it's almost like we're getting to do these deeper parts of the relationship that most people take years to get to because they're too busy like getting caught in chemistry or masking in some way. And then the people reveal all their ugly shit a year or two into the relationship, and we're actually starting off working on it, which feels like it's bringing us closer in a much different way.
Yeah, it's doing it in like the reverse. And yeah, I've never done it before, and I think we've talked about that I think we both had moments of thinking, is this the right way to do things? But I think, but the chemistry is also building. But then once we can be physically located together, which will be it's coming up soonish, and that'll be it'll be a whole new layer of experience, and I'm looking forward to it, I guess.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but that's what it came out to.
Yes. So I love that about our perspective. It is kind of unique because we've been faced with unique circumstances, but like we're both really intuitive, really deep, just in general. And being able to jump into this dynamic, kind of going depth first, has been really rewarding and learning so much. And I feel like we're building a different kind of foundation by doing it that way. And that's one of the reasons we're talking about it, is to help other people do that too.
Yeah.
So on the going back to communication, there's also been like a ridiculous amount of patience, I think, on both ends and for ourselves. Incredible amounts of courage, like coming to the table and talking about stuff that's honestly pretty scary. And I think for me, a couple times I've been like, oh shit, this is going to be a deal breaker. Like, how many times has it felt like that for you?
A few times, yeah. Yeah, especially early on, there were just things that felt so knotted up inside of me. Like, there's no way I can say this. But for whatever reason, it was just in this place of I have to say this, and let's see what happens. Or maybe not even that far. But it was literally just I have to say this, and I felt that knot, like this is probably gonna ruin things, and I did it, and then lo and behold, you blow my mind and are relatively okay with the things, or we're able to talk it out in a totally respectful way. That was just, what happened?
Yeah, the mind-blowing moments after bringing things to the table that I feel like I have never been safe to say to anyone, those continue to surprise me. Like, I think I know how you're going to react, and then you blow me away, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I can do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's been so much repair in such a short period of time, just on clarifying communication and talking through our nervous system reactions and talking through our fears and kind of communicating to the point of being painful. Like, really, I have to bring this thing to the table. Like, does it really matter? Yes, it actually does.
Yep.
Right. What was the last one that we had that conversation about? I feel like it was you.
Well, yeah, I think it was even just last week. I think I was sending some message of just expressing, I'm just feeling a little irritated at that moment of, do I have to keep bringing this to you? Like, again and again? Can we just, yeah. But yeah, it was just one of those funny irritations of that moment but that was the feeling of, I need to bring this up and we need to talk about it. And I don't want to, I'm getting annoyed with how much we have to communicate, but that's what it was.
Yes, it is mildly annoying sometimes. And, it's funny when we did our astrology charts, and it was like the most important thing to make it through like this first period is to communicate. And I did not know how true that was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I always thought it was like a female thing, like the need to talk things out, the need to communicate about, we'll call it every little thing, but it's not really every little thing, to talk extensively, to work through things. I was taught that that's a woman's thing, and she like needs her women, and she needs her places to do this. And I never really expected a relationship to be a place where I could talk to that depth and extent.
Same. I was taught the same things and felt the same way and had the attitude of, why, what in past relationships, why does she want to talk so much? I don't want to talk. I'm not going to talk. I'm a man. I'm not supposed to.
Right. I love that we kill all of those stereotypes. Thank God. Yeah. And, just like briefly want to mention that I think we both had a little bit of fear of conflict, but it became clear really fast that we needed to put that aside and just communicate about literally everything, because you have nothing to lose, really, by putting it out on the table. We had nothing to lose.
You don't have anything to lose, but it still doesn't make it feel easy when you've got fear of conflict. It still is just like, I know I was, this doesn't feel good. I don't like conflict. I don't want to do this. This is uncomfortable, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't like this.
Super uncomfortable. Yeah.
To just do it.
So it's been great. It's been very fortifying.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is attachment style differences. It's my personal opinion that we all have all the attachment styles, and we have like a main one, and then we have ones that surface in different areas of our life or different types of conflicts. Um, yeah, so I guess this time I'll ask you to share first, like what your attachment style is and when you see it come up.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it previously in the conversation here, but it's avoidant is kind of like the primary attachment style I have. And for anyone who doesn't know what that theory, but essentially, I will have this thing of wanting to run away, or when things get tough or difficult. Um, yeah, I will try and push back, have space, avoid communication, avoid conflict, avoid connecting, because that's for whatever reason that's where my nervous system goes. It feels safer. And that's the primary one that I have. Sometimes in certain situations, certain things, it can become more kind of it's like a chaotic, confusing thing where I'll want connection, but then I won't, and so on. But yeah, avoidant is my primary attachment style. Yeah,
Yeah, I think the other one you're describing is disorganized attachment, right?
yeah, I've heard it in different depending on the frame, the naming of it, but yeah, it's that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I get that. And we had an interesting conversation early on, which was very honest and candid, where you were like, hey, what I typically do is go into my cave and I take a lot of space and I don't emerge for long periods of time. And here I am, like Nadia is all ready to go and in your face all the time. And maybe we can help each other a little bit. Like you help me come out of the cave a little bit and I help you calm down a little bit. And I mean, maybe you didn't say it like that, but do you remember that conversation?
No.
Yeah, well, you were very aware of your tendency to go into the cave and stay there for long periods of time. And to the
It's
point,
comfortable.
totally, totally. I've been to your cave. It's great.
Yeah.
But just having that awareness of like, hey, I tend to really go sit by myself and want to be alone or think I need to be alone. And, it helps me understand you better and have more patience and also like know that I could gently invite you out or to come closer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of men have that thing inside them too of you do need the cave, but it can also be an escape or a hiding place.
Yeah, it can be a way to avoid actually doing any internal processing. And oh, I don't want to feel this, therefore I'll go and distract myself, and I'll stay there long enough that it just gets pushed under the rug, so to speak.
Right. It blows over.
Yeah.
Maybe it blows over.
Well, depends, but yeah, like
Right.
yeah.
For me, I think pretty early on, this was the interesting thing is we do have kind of opposite attachment styles and a different way of most things. We have a lot of differences. But like, Ryan you weren't responding to my text messages in a certain time frame. And early on, that would send me into spirals. And it was like super anxious attachment. And I knew what this meant. And I've done so much therapy around it. But what uncovered for me in the relationship is that I had a fear of being punished because when there was space and silence and I was waiting for someone to respond to me, AKA waiting for my dad to come home from work, it meant I was about to be punished.
Mm.
And so that came up in like a super massive session I had when I was seeking support, dealing with the anxious attachment and understanding like why my body was getting so activated when you weren't responding to my text messages. Like, I mean, we're talking early on, it would sometimes take you a day or two to respond, which to me felt like an eternity. It slowly has gotten shorter over time. But I had to work through that. And I'd never encountered that level of my childhood trauma before. So that was pretty intense. And then, as I mentioned earlier, like that disorganized attachment style of like, no, I want you to come closer and I want to let you in. Or let's say I just like told you how I felt about you. This just happened, a month or so ago. But then when I think about you telling me how you feel about me, like I want to close up and shut down. And I'm like, no, stay away. And then I would have cognitive distortion. That's happened twice for me now, where it's literally like my entire reality changes, which indicates a deeper trauma when that kind of stuff gets triggered. So I actually had to get like a specialized psychologist who's helping me with that and really understand what was happening inside me. That push-pull internally I'd been struggling with for decades. Like I would have a fight with a partner and I would simultaneously want to tell them to go screw themselves, but then I would want them to come comfort me and say like, no, I want you to come back to bed, or I want things to be okay. It's very confusing. And that makes sense with the kind of trauma that I've had. And I know there's probably a lot of other people like that,
Mm.
you know?
I'll say I've been on the receiving end of that, and it's incredibly confusing when someone's yelling at you, but what they actually want you to do is to come close and hold them, but then at the same time, for some period of time, withstand the physical or verbal blows they're throwing at you. And it's just, what is going on right now? It is really hard to sit in that and know what to do.
It's hard to hold that. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I've been mostly with you. It's just played out psychically. Like I've really pulled myself back and I'm dealing with it internally, but I know that you also feel it psychically. So, you know,
Yeah.
still impacting the dynamic, but it's definitely nowhere near what it was when we started.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the other things that I kind of wanted to mention while we're on the topic is like all of these things we're talking about can be pushed into a toxic space, right? So that please come closer, now get the hell away from me. That can turn into one of those relationships that erupts and then repairs in a big way, right? That is a toxic relationship. And the way that you determine whether or not it's toxic is it getting better? Is the work being done? Are you guys getting closer every time? Or is there more space and more dysregulation? And are you creating this over and over again? And kind of looking at these patterns in a bigger picture, higher level viewpoint of, okay, is this just hard? And we have moments of like, ooh, there's that line again. If we cross this line, it goes into toxic. But if we stay over here and we're doing the work, this is actually healthy relationship work that sometimes just really sucks. You know?
Yep. And I think there's the piece that's hard to know sometimes when you're in it, but if you can kind of look back on it, at least the one thing I would add is the what's the goal, like truly the goal between each person? Like are we actually kind of excited and looking forward to like actually trying to get to a stable, regulated place? Or does a part of us actually really like the roller coaster, the dopamine hits that we get of it being toxic? And if you can kind of start to see like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm actually kind of addicted to this push-pull thing, that's when you know.
That's when you know it's not the relationship for you.
Yeah.
Or maybe you need more support.
That too.
Right. But also like these moments where it is really hard, but the big picture is that you're moving towards something. Those are the moments that you need to write it out and get the support that you need and the perspective of stepping back and saying like, okay, no, actually this is going well. It's just a really hard minute. And that's been hard too. Like in our dynamic, like sometimes this stuff is really hard. And like I said previously, I have the urge to cut and run. It's one of my defense mechanisms. But it's been really important to stay for me.
Yeah. I've had my doubt moments as well. And yeah, working through it has not always been easy for sure.
Yeah. Totally. So I want to wrap the conversation with some like real-time recent conversations we've had to give you some examples of like stuff that's coming up even right now. Yeah, so Ryan, you go first with the last topic you brought up.
Okay. So it was, yeah, just very recent. It was this feeling of, I'm blanking a little bit, but I was working through a few things that were coming up, and it was this deeper sense, this deeper feeling inside of myself that I'm still kind of uncovering new things about me, about who I am, about what I really want in the world. Um, Coming into a deeper sense of myself, and with that, like it senses that there's like more passions, more excitements, more things that are kind of on the horizon that are coming up. And so I think with that, there was this sense of like doing this work to, I guess, with another person involved. Um, because essentially it came down to I don't like there was a resistance of I don't want to promise you that things I feel like I can't totally keep because I'm in this internal state of movement and growth, and I'm sort of I don't know 100% about this thing, this thing, and this thing, and this is part of me too. Where when I say things, I want them to be like ironclad 100% all the time, and maybe that's to a fault, but that's kind of how it goes. And
It explains so much.
yeah, but so for me, there's almost this feeling of, is this even ethical to be, going deeper with you when I can sense that I'm still internally moving things? And because like the idea was it almost like, at least what part of me wants to do is to just say, you know what, I might hurt you because of these uncertainties within myself. What I want to do is to just go into the cave and just stay there until I figure myself out 100%. And once I'm 100% figured out who I am and everything I want, then I can come out and I can tell everyone with direct 100% certainty who I am and what I want. And there'll be no wavering, nothing unequivocal about it. And that would be the most ethical thing to do, because then I wouldn't be hurting anybody, because I would never have to change my mind or say, oh, you know what, something, mood, or I feel differently now, blah, blah, blah. And so I brought that up, but that was just this thing of this pull inside of me of like, is this okay to be working this out with you in real time rather than having it all figured out in my head first?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a kind of a flavor of perfectionism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this like I think a lot of us struggle with this idea of I have to have it perfectly formed, and it has to be like deeply rooted before I can say it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be either of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that felt vulnerable to sort of say, look, like I'm taking you, like if we're continuing to go down this road, then I don't know exactly what's going to come, like what shifts and turns I'll go through. And yeah, it just, having someone along for that ride feels different than doing it by myself.
Well, and two, there's so much you actually can't do on your own in a cave, right? Like that's the basis of relational healing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to sidestep here. For those who don't know, relational healing is healing trauma that happens within relationship, right? So that's all relationships between you and your mom, you and your dad, your siblings, somebody who did this or who said this or deeply impacted you in some way. This is a form of trauma that can't be healed without another relationship. So you can only heal certain things in yourself, Ryan in his cave. But there's quite a bit that needs to be healed with another person. So you can actively work it out, talk it out, feel it out, have it triggered. That is what triggering is. It's having trauma come up. It's having something literally be triggered from your past. And if it never gets triggered, it never gets healed. Like, so you absolutely need to be doing it with somebody. And I'm so honored that it's me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Also, the fear of like hurting another person because of your quote unquote uncertainties, it's real. And I'm sure that many men also feel held back for that reason, because I know men do not want to hurt women.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and no, yeah, it does feel like it's real, and yeah,
Yeah, thank you for sharing it. A recent one for me has been, we've been talking a lot about polarity, and we'll go deeper into polarity during the course, but we've been talking about it as it relates to our growing business partnership and who is doing what job and who is taking the lead where and who is like the one creating things or drafting emails or yeah, just like who's taking the lead, right? And this ongoing sense of imbalance of, oh no, this is a masculine role, or oh, this is a feminine role, or this is what I should be doing, or this is how the work should be split. This like 50-50 conversation. And so it was recently, Ryan and I had a conversation about this, and I think we both really love metaphors or analogies. Like we love to use story to kind of explain how we're feeling and what we're seeing. And I think for me, I felt like Ryan was wanting to make sure everything was fair. Like we don't want Nadia doing too much work. We don't want her feeling resentful or bogged down. I want to make sure I'm showing up enough for her. Like that's what I took away from our conversation. And what I was trying to talk about with him was like, okay, this is how I see Ryan. Ryan is building a castle and he's building it like one brick at a time. And he's looking out for the future. He's looking out for the long term and he is preparing for that. And I feel him preparing for that. I feel him showing up and like chipping away, slow and steady. That's Ryan's vibe. That's his pacing. And I've learned to really respect that about him. And Nadia's over here and she's building a yurt and that's going to go up real fast and it's going to house us just fine. And we're going to be warm. We're going to have somewhere to sleep. And that is my strength. My strength is in the right now. It's in like the manifesting and the bringing stuff in and the more excitable instant energy. I'm not good at the long-term stuff and Ryan is teaching me lots about it and vice versa. And so if we take those strengths and we look at them and we honor them within each other, instead of saying, no, you should be doing this and I should be doing that, it creates a deeper level of support and authenticity and direction of how our business partnership is going to go from here on out. And like, yeah, that felt like it's a pretty pivotal conversation because polarity is a huge piece in the partnership dynamic, like romantically and otherwise. Yeah, so we had to have that conversation, which started off by Ryan leaving me a message and me being triggered about the business stuff. And oh my God, he doesn't want to do the business thing anymore. Like, oh my God, like this isn't going to work. And I had to sit with that. And this was the metaphor that came up was like, oh no, Ryan is just coming at it differently. And we have to honor how he's coming at it and then honor what Nadia is good at.
yeah. And that was a great metaphor, and we came away feeling a lot better and kind of a better understanding of, yeah, I can do these tasks, you can do these tasks, and it'll actually work really well, especially if you start throwing out these ideas of what role we're supposed to be playing and actually just do what we're both good at and excited about. And understand where, yeah, that if I am holding this longer vision, then maybe I might not be doing in the immediate moment as much yurt building because I'm over here building a castle brick by brick. Okay, so just like let's say that it's gonna take a minute till that castle's ready.
Totally, but it also requires us both to show up and be honest about like where we're feeling stress, where it's not feeling aligned, what we secretly want to be doing, or what we feel excited about, right? And that's another vulnerability piece.
So much vulnerability piece.
Yeah. Right, because that conversation started with like you drafting an email and it just like was not clicking and it was not feeling good and there was a lot of like energy between us around it and you had to come up and say like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And it was like you dropped a bomb in front of me in some respects. And that's what the communication has felt like sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, drop the bomb, and now we're going to sit with that bomb for like 24 hours before we respond.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like you're saying it though. It's like when we're looking at this at the big picture, that there's a lot of moments here where it feels like it could very easily go sideways.
Yeah.
We're dropping bombs where it's like these are big things, but because we're both committed to showing up every time, doing the work internally, and we have the skills, the tools that like to work through it, that we seem to keep being more and more just okay. This is the process of how we're doing it. We'll just keep going.
And it keeps getting better and going deeper and being easier, which I think is really encouraging.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last thing I want to say is I think the most valuable thing that we've had in this process is space, time, and space. Right? How do you feel about that?
I mean, if I'm truly trying to say what the most valuable thing that we've had is, that's hard to pinpoint it down, but I would definitely agree that the time and the space, the pacing of how we've been doing things has been instrumental to allowing things to unfold in the way they have, where, yeah, I mean, just, I don't see how it could have unfolded better if we had moved faster.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pacing has been really hard. And also, like, thank God for it. I mean, even after that conversation we had, like, you were busy that night. We couldn't get on a phone call and talk about this bomb that you dropped. And I was so grateful for that when I woke up the next morning, because I was like, oh, actually, I was really dysregulated and I didn't even really realize it. And if we had a conversation, it would have gone sideways. And so when I say space too, that also means when you're triggered, taking space to really let that open inside you before trying to revisit it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
The physical space has sucked, but
yeah. But yeah, having space to work through the things as much as you can on your own is totally important.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this podcast?
I mean, man, it's amazing. I think we've gone for longer than I expected to go. And I still feel like I could keep going and just keep talking, because there's so much to all of this that, man, maybe we should do a course.
Yes. So we have a free masterclass coming up on March 27th. It is posted on the meetup group, and that'll be linked below the podcast. Now, this masterclass is not just for single people looking for partnership. It's also for people who are in relationships who want to transform the relationship that they have using the tools that we use. And yeah, it's going to be great. We also have a course coming up in April, 8-week course, how to call in this kind of relationship and then how to navigate it once it arrives. So thank you guys for joining us on the podcast today. Thank you, Ryan, for sitting in with me again. And next week, we will do our probably final and part 3 episode, bringing in a lot more spiritual components to our dynamic and what that's been like as two highly psychic, highly sensitive people.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, guys.